When you hear Stoicism, what comes to mind? Is it a stiff upper lip, a blank, unreadable stare, a man who refuses to cry at funerals or laugh at weddings, someone who seems invulnerable, not because they are strong, but because they feel nothing? That image is a myth. It's a caricature of Stoicism, not the philosophy itself. And unfortunately, that's the version most people have absorbed, a crude misunderstanding handed down by culture, movies, and internet memes. They think Stoicism means being cold, detached, robotic, that it's about bottling up your feelings, becoming numb, and walking through life armored and unaffected. But here's the truth. Stoicism isn't the absence of emotion. It is the discipline to not let emotion drive you off a cliff. You are divine one. This isn't just another video for the feed, but another piece of content to scroll, you share was made for someone like you in mind. Someone who's tired, maybe not in body, but in spirit. Someone who needs to hear that their quiet strength matters, even when it's unseen. It's not about becoming heartless. It's about becoming clear-hearted. It's not about shutting down your feelings. It's about feeling deeply, honestly, and then choosing your response instead of being enslaved by your reaction. It's not about being unshakable because you don't care. It's about being steady because you've learned what truly matters. Stoicism is not emotional repression. It is emotional strength. Let's start by killing the biggest lie. One of the most damaging misconceptions about Stoicism is the belief that it requires emotional suppression, that Stoics are people who feel nothing, say nothing, and suffer silently, refusing to be touched by joy or pain. But real Stoicism isn't about shoving emotions under the rug or pretending to be made of stone. Real Stoicism is about courageously facing emotion, letting yourself feel the storm, and then choosing to remain rooted. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Stoicism teaches you to witness your emotions without being ruled by them. It does not say, "Do not feel anger." It says, "Feel it, but do not become it." Do not let anger hijack your tongue, your hands, or your judgment. It does not say, "Avoid sadness." It says, "Grieve fully, and then rise." It doesn't teach you to be indifferent to life's beauty or tragedy. On the contrary, a true Stoic is intensely aware of the impermanence of all things, which is why they love deeply, walk mindfully, and act purposefully. Let me tell you a short story. There once was a Roman general who lost his young son to illness. His name was Quintus, and for 3 days he did not weep, did not eat, did not speak.
Imagine this. You're in the middle of an argument. Your pulse races. Your voice rises. A non-Stoic lets the anger take over, says things they can't unsay, regrets them later. A Stoic breathes, pauses, and chooses their response, not because they feel less, but because they understand more. They understand that every action is a seed, that every reaction shapes your future. That clarity is not coldness, it is compassion with boundaries. It is strength without arrogance. It is love with wisdom. So, no, Stoicism is not about emotional suppression, nor is it about cold detachment. It is about rising above chaos, not by floating away from it, but by planting your feet in its center and choosing to remain unmoved by the trivial, untouched by the toxic, and unwavering in your integrity. It is not a practice of indifference. It is a practice of inner discipline, of learning how to carry your fire without letting it burn you or the people around you. That's what Stoicism teaches. Not how to escape emotion, but how to channel it. Not how to shut off from the world, but how to show up to it with eyes open, mind clear, and heart strong. The questions that set you free. At the heart of Stoicism lies a powerful discipline, one that starts with a series of brutally honest, soul-centering questions. What is truly within my control? What must I learn to release, no matter how tightly I want to hold on? What burdens are mine to carry, and which ones never belonged to me in the first place? These questions aren't rhetorical. They are spiritual exercises. They are the compass by which a Stoic navigates the unpredictable terrain of life. In a world that constantly tempts us to control everything, from the outcome of events to the thoughts of others, from the past we cannot change to the future we cannot predict, a Stoic returns again and again to the only place of true power, the self. The only thing you truly own is your mind, your choices, your responses, your character. Everything else is borrowed: health, reputation, fortune, relationships, even life itself. The Stoic knows this, not just intellectually, but viscerally. And because they know it, they live differently. They walk with a lighter grip on the things that fade and a stronger grasp on the things that endure. The Stoic doesn't run. They stand. A Stoic is not someone who hides from life's trials. They are not detached monks living in caves, removed from the pain and pressure of the world. No, a true Stoic is forged in the fire. They step forward when others retreat. They walk calmly through storms that would cause most to crumble. They do not panic in uncertainty. They do not flee from discomfort. And they do not collapse under the weight of adversity. Why? Because they have trained the one thing that matters most: their mind. They understand that control is an illusion, but mastery is not. You cannot control the words others speak. You cannot prevent loss, betrayal, illness, or death. You cannot force life to go according to your plans. But what you can control, what a Stoic commits to mastering, is how you interpret events, how you respond, and how you choose to carry yourself through the chaos. They don't flinch because they are callous. They remain steady because they are prepared. They have wrestled with fear in quiet moments. They have contemplated loss, imagined hardship, embraced discomfort. So when these things appear, they are not paralyzed. They are ready. As Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The Stoic does not run from life. They meet it with open eyes, a calm mind, and a courageous heart. This is not coldness. This is clarity. To the untrained eye, a Stoic may seem cold, unshaken in moments of grief, composed in the face of injustice, quiet when others scream. But this isn't emotional numbness. It's not the absence of feeling. It's the presence of perspective. It's the wisdom to know that reacting wildly to the uncontrollable only multiplies suffering. That emotional chaos does not solve chaos. It feeds it. That clarity, composure, and reflection are not weaknesses. They are weapons of the wise. A Stoic feels deeply, but they do not become prisoners of feeling. They suffer, but they do not drown in it. They are disappointed, but they do not let bitterness corrupt their spirit. They understand the truth carved into the fabric of this philosophy. Peace is not found by avoiding storms. Peace is found by anchoring yourself so deeply that no storm can pull you apart. And that kind of peace, that kind of power, that kind of clarity, it is not built overnight. It is forged, tested, refined, in fire, in silence, in solitude, in struggle. So the next time life becomes heavy, ask yourself, not in desperation, but with discipline, what is within my power? What must I release? What is mine to carry? And what am I free to let go? These are not small questions. They are the beginning of a life lived with intention, courage, and calm. They are the beginning of a Stoic mind. 3. Stoicism is rooted in action, not just reflection. There's a common misconception that Stoicism is a passive philosophy, that it belongs only to hermits, monks, or scholars in distant cloisters, that it is best practiced in silence, in solitude, in the luxury of detachment. But this couldn't be further from the truth. Stoicism was never meant to be lived solely in the pages of books or in the safe confines of thought. It was designed for the arena, for life as it is, raw and unpredictable. The original Stoics were not reclusive mystics. They were soldiers, emperors, merchants, teachers, slaves, and statesmen. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire through plague, war, betrayal, and personal loss, all while writing words that would echo across millennia. Epictetus was born into slavery, crippled in one leg, yet he became a teacher of wisdom whose words trained the minds of kings. Seneca advised emperors, navigated political rivalries, suffered exile, and still composed letters that guided souls through the moral complexities of power and ambition. These were not men hiding from life. They were deeply engaged in it. They lived in the noise of the marketplace, the urgency of politics, the mess of relationships, and the stress of real responsibility. And it was there, not on mountaintops, that they practiced their Stoicism. Because Stoicism is not escapism. It is not about fleeing from society to avoid suffering. It is about standing upright within it, calm amidst chaos, principled amidst pressure. As Seneca once wrote, philosophy calls for plain dealing. It makes us act, not chatter. It calls on us to take up our duties, not to sit back and dream. This is the essence of Stoicism. It is a call to act, not to wait until the world is peaceful to find peace, not to hope for less hardship, but to become harder to break, not to wait for inspiration, but to live by intention, every single day. A Stoic does not sit idly, theorizing about virtue. They practice it, in conversation, in traffic, in heartbreak, in business, in parenting, in failure, in conflict, and even in victory. They practice it when misunderstood. They practice it when provoked. They practice it when praised. Because for the Stoic, the goal is not to be right. It is to be true. True to reason. True to principle. True to who they choose to be, even when the world gives them every excuse to be something else. Stoicism is a discipline of the everyday. It's easy to meditate when the room is quiet. It's easy to preach patience when no one is testing your limits. But the Stoic disciplines are tested not in ease, but in friction. That's why Stoicism isn't about hiding away in the mountains. It's about rising each morning, fully aware of what the day may bring. Delay, insult, rejection, disorder, temptation, failure. And still choosing to show up with a composed mind, a steady heart, and an unshakable sense of responsibility. It's about meeting life as it is, not as we wish it to be, and responding to its trials not with complaint, but with courage. That's what made the ancient Stoics so remarkable. Not their detachment from the world, but their deep engagement with it. They worked, led, struggled, served, and suffered. Not perfectly, but deliberately. And that is what makes Stoicism relevant today. Not as a dusty relic of old philosophy, but as a practical operating system for modern life. In boardrooms and classrooms, in families and friendships, in victories and valleys, it is still a compass, a guide, a torch in the dark. So if you imagine the Stoic as someone retreating into isolation to avoid the mess of life, think again. The Stoic is not the one who avoids the fire. The Stoic is the one who walks through it, head held high, not because they are immune, but because they are trained. They know that the world is chaotic. They just refuse to let it make them chaotic too. Because the Stoic understands, reflection without action is self-deception, and action without virtue is merely noise. 4. Stoicism is the mastery of the inner world, so you can impact the outer. One Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," and how right he was. We spend so much of our lives in battles that never actually happen. We replay conversations that didn't go our way. We worry about futures that never arrive. We carry insults, a short story, the cup, and the earthquake. There is an old tale, adapted through many cultures, that goes something like this. A wise Stoic teacher once held up a clay cup to his student. He said, "This cup is already broken." The student looked at it. It wasn't broken. It was whole. The teacher smiled and continued. "The day it falls, or cracks, or shatters, it won't surprise me, because I have already accepted its nature. Everything fragile is destined to break. But that doesn't stop me from using it, appreciating it, or drinking from it." The student asked, "But won't that make you feel less when it's gone?" The teacher replied, "No, it helps me feel more now, because my peace doesn't depend on the cup staying unbroken. It depends on my understanding of how life works." Then, one day, an earthquake hit the village. The student panicked. He ran to the teacher's hut, shouting, "Everything's falling apart." The teacher was sitting calmly, hands folded. The student gasped, "How are you so calm?" And the teacher said, "Because the earthquake is outside me. My choice is inside me." This is the gift of Stoicism. Internal sovereignty. Full people live like leaves in the wind, blown in every direction by things they cannot control. Someone says something cruel. They fall apart. A plan goes wrong. They spiral. They are ignored, disrespected, or forgotten. And they crumble as if their worth was ever defined by external forces. But a Stoic? A Stoic doesn't build their identity on sand. They build it on stone. They stop chasing the shifting winds of opinion and validation. They stop giving strangers power over their emotional climate. They stop letting peace be something that can be stolen. They move their center of gravity inward. That doesn't make them heartless. It makes them resilient. Because once your calm is no longer tied to circumstance, it can't be shaken by it. Once your peace is no longer dependent on the mood swings, or misunderstandings of others, you become free. And that freedom? It's not cold. It's not aloof. It's powerful. It's the kind of freedom that lets you show up to arguments with clarity instead of defensiveness. Stay kind in the face of gossip. Stand firm when others try to manipulate you. Act with intention rather than react out of ego. Peace is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of power. Stoicism isn't about becoming a machine. It doesn't ask you to feel less. It teaches you to respond better. It doesn't ask you to stop caring. It teaches you to stop clinging. Because when you master your inner life, you become immune to emotional hijacking. You stop absorbing other people's chaos. You no longer need constant approval to feel complete. You choose your words, your energy, your battles, with precision and peace. That's the quiet superpower Stoicism offers. Not a life without pain, but a life where pain does not rule you. Not a world without injustice, but a mind that chooses not to be conquered by it. So the next time life throws you into uncertainty, remember, you don't have to control everything to remain powerful. You don't have to win every argument to remain dignified. You don't have to avoid difficulty to remain calm. You only have to come home to the place no one else can touch. Your own mind, your own choices, your own inner stillness. That is where Stoicism begins, and that is where your true strength is waiting. 5. Stoicism is a daily discipline, not a one-time realization. Stoicism is not a book you finish. It is not a quote you memorize. It is not a philosophical idea you visit once and walk away from, transformed. It is a practice, a path, a lifelong discipline. Like any discipline worth pursuing, like mastery in music, like strength in the gym, like fluency in language, it requires consistency, patience, and repetition. You don't become a Stoic by thinking about virtue once. You become a Stoic by choosing it daily. You choose it in the quiet moments when no one is watching. You choose it in the loud moments when everyone is. You choose it when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The morning ritual, preparing the mind for life's battle. Each day begins with uncertainty. You do not know who you will encounter. You cannot predict what will go wrong, what will fall apart, or who might disappoint you. That is why the Stoic begins the day by preparing the mind, not hoping the day will be easy, but bracing for the inevitable friction of life. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant." 5. It changes how you speak and listen. The Stoic values reason over noise. They don't argue for attention. They speak when their words improve the silence. Because they're not chasing status or ego, they can listen more deeply, observe more fully. They are slow to judge, quick to think, and even quicker to forgive. In a world where most people speak to win, the Stoic speaks to understand. Better to trip with the feet than with the tongue. Zeno of Citium 6. It brings you face to face with mortality, and that makes life sweeter. Memento mori. Remember you will die. The Stoic reflects often on death, not out of morbidity, but clarity. We are not guaranteed tomorrow, which makes today infinitely more valuable. This awareness doesn't make them anxious. It makes them intentional. They don't waste time. They don't waste breath. They love deeper. They forgive quicker. They focus harder. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you, dear, share your thoughts in the comments, don't forget to like and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update that shows you are divine one. This isn't just another video for the feed, but another piece of content to scroll you share. This was made for someone like you in mind, someone who's tired, maybe not in body, but in spirit. Someone who needs to hear that their quiet strength matters, even when it's unseen.